welcome to another power-packed webinar because today we are going to be discussing about the future of product management. We are going to be deep diving into strategies, trends, and innovations that will define the future of this field. Guys, we have two very esteemed guests and speakers with us today who are going to be sharing a lot of insights, and I'm pretty sure you all will have a lot of things to learn. I think it's time for me to introduce our amazing speakers of the day. Our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is Shivani, who is currently the head of product at upGrad Enterprise with over a decade of experience in product management, digital transformation, and technical program management. Her diverse background includes roles in esteemed organizations such as RBS and American Express. Beyond her professional pursuits, she is driven by curiosity and enjoys reading and spending time with her family and friends. Shivani, it's truly an honor and a privilege to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Kavach, for the wonderful interview. And good evening, everyone. Very excited to be talking to you and discussing the future of product management.
Yes. Our second speaker, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is Manasa, who has an experience of 11 plus years spanning across multiple roles, including applications engineer, product manager, program manager, product support manager across various domains such as cloud, gaming, consumer products, and payments. Her passion for product management made her pursue a full-time PGP from ISB with majors in marketing and strategy, post which she started her career in PM as in a gaming firm. Beyond Manasa's professional pursuits, she is into various art forms such as piano, Bharatnatyam, mandala art, and a lot more. Manasa, again, it's truly an honor and a privilege to have you here with us. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and sharing your valuable insights with us.
Hey, thank you so much for such a cool and great introduction. And I'm really looking forward to this webinar and then can't wait to interact with all of you guys. Thank you once again for having me here.
Great. Guys, I'm directly going to deep dive into questions that I have for you both. My first question is to you, Shivani, and I really want to understand that what initially drew you towards your field? I mean, how has that passion influenced you and your career path?
Okay, so my transition into product management happened in a lot of phases. So when I started transitioning into this role, this was back in 2014 when I was working as a project manager, and I was working on big problems at American Express, essentially in solving efficiencies, improving customer experience, and automation, driving so many initiatives. So more than 90% of the projects that I was working on, they had a dependency on digital transformation or building a new capability or product. So while I loved solving complex problems and defining the strategy and everything, but one thing that really fueled my curiosity about this whole field, because product management was not so common back then. It was either an engineer, business project. So I was lucky enough to be a part of one of the projects, and those hours spent with business, with product managers, and with engineers used to be the best hours, at least for my workday. That's how it all started. And honestly, the saying that product manager is truly the CEO of a product is actually true. You get exposure on so many skills that you can't even imagine, from analysis to market research to collaboration to cross-functional collaboration, stakeholder management, stabilization, and so much on execution. So that's essentially what motivated me to pursue a career in product management. And I can truly say now that it definitely is one of the entrepreneurial roles out there.
Great. I mean, I have a lot of questions to ask you about this, but I'll get back to you in a minute. But my next question to you is to Manasa is to you. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are really excited in understanding your journey. So if you could share some very pivotal moments in your journey that led you to specialize in product and growth.
Cool. I guess firstly, I will date back my journey to 2014 when I started my journey as an application engineer. I started my journey in 2011 as an application engineer at Oracle. But then in 2013, Oracle started this product called Oracle Fusion, which is the cloud cloud product, which is on cloud. But then previously I used to work on premise. Now when we started this on cloud, I used to work for a product called Student Cloud, and I was like, we built everything from scratch. And I was just a developer. Like when I started off my career, it's like very early in my career, and I used to work with a product manager. And then that's exactly when for the very first time in my life, I heard that there is a role called product manager. And then when that was happening, I got a lot of ownership in terms of designing how the screen should look like, and how the backend functioning should look like, because we were developing from scratch, right? We don't have a specific PRDs that point of time when we were really referring to. So we had a lot of ownership in terms of building it from scratch, and I felt it was so fascinating for me when that happened. Hey, I got ownership to design how a product should look like. And I was like, hey, what is this role? This is so exciting. And then a lot of times what happens is you get requirements from somebody and then you code, right? But then here you are actually creating the requirements yourself and then getting it validated by the product manager. Then I'm like, okay, why not take it full time? That was the very first time. I think that's a defining moment for me, where I really got to know that there is a role called product manager, which I didn't know earlier. That's point number one. And then I have always wanted to do an MBA, but I never had a goal on why I wanted to do an MBA. So higher education has been a very generic idea in my head that I should really pursue an MBA, but I never don't I didn't know why. But then after I realized the role called product, now I'm like, okay, fine. Now I think I have a goal. Now I can move into business side of things. I can really own the decisions of how a product should look like and what kind of experience I can give it to users. So that excited me, and then I brought both my ideas together on my MBA and product. So that's my first ever pivotal moment where I got to know what product management is all about. Now, the second moment, I would give it to my post MBA. I moved into a gaming firm as a product manager. And when there, frankly, when I got the role, I cried. I was like, no, this is not the role I wanted, but I wanted a product manager role. And then, but gaming is not the domain where I associate myself with. But then I'm like, hey, I'll take that leap of faith, because this is a product manager role, because you're an application engineer and then you got this opportunity to be a product manager at a startup kind of environment, but not a startup. But I'm telling you, that's the best thing that have ever happened to me. Well, like, definitely tops the list, and one of the best things that have happened to me. Because at a firm like that, where I got ownership to do a lot more things. I was responsible for developing wireframes, making UX designs, and making growth related designs, making engagement related design, like making operation related changes. So multiple things I got to do in those 2 years. It was like a power packed experience that I have developed. So that actually gave me an insight on how various functions come together practically. So that's my second defining moment. And then the third moment is obviously at Google, when I was doing this 20% role with a product called Files by Google, which is an utility app developed for users in India mainly. Now when I was actually working on that product, right, it was very different from my startup culture. At Google, you have people to do everything. Like, you have UX, you have analytics, you have market research, you have like like initially it was like a pretty, like, the cultural shock for me. I was like, hey, everything is doing everything, what do I do now? Everyone is doing everything, what do I do now? So that was the initial thought. But then I realized, as a product manager, you need to wear different hats depending on the project you deliver. So that humbled me a little bit in terms of, okay, fine, now your role is to program manage for certain things, and for certain things your role is to define how the user journey should look like, and for some you got to make decisions on UX. So at Google, that's what I have learned. So I guess these three moments in my life actually defines everything that I do at Google, be at a product manager, be as a program manager, or as a product support manager. I know it's a lengthy answer, but I guess these three defines the moments that
No,
I have as
I
a
think it's a journey of roller coaster from like ups and downs.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Manasa, like considering the fact that you've worked across very different tech firms, from Google to that of gaming, how do you think all of those experiences have shaped your approach now?
Good question. So this is what it is, right? As an application developer, intuitively you develop a lot of problem solving within you. Like, how should a how should a product work? Like, as a coder, as an application engineer, that's how you think, right? You don't think how should it work. It's like, hey, you know how should it work, and you know how to code. So you think deeper, step by step, and the structured approach. I think as an application developer, I have developed that intuitiveness towards a structured approach. That's one. And then and at Oracle things work very differently, right? Like, because I was in a very scrappy lean model environment when we started off working for Student Cloud, and then at a startup environment you get a lot more ownership. So I've realized how that ownership has actually made me wear a lot of hats and make a lot of decisions, though it's not my area of expertise. Now then I've had to develop that area of expertise. Now at Google you don't have to develop an area of expertise in everything. All you have to do is, people who are experts in every field. All you have to do is, how do you bring all of them together? So the approach from different tech companies to solving problems has been very different, and I got to continuously adapt myself with a different culture of problem solving. So I guess three different tech companies, I've experienced three different cultures in solving problems. Yeah.
That's so very true. In fact, we've been doing these webinars, and one of the things that has been always common is that as a product manager, you are literally a magician who's got to bring everything together to get that final act right. So
Yeah.
that's definitely true. Shivani, I have a very personal question. In fact, I myself am a mentor and an educator. So I want to know what has been the role of mentorship in your career growth, specifically within tech and education sector.
Sure. Now that you asked this question, actually, it is one of the points of my previous question as well. Mentorship, I think, is one of the most important and one of the most underrated experience any person can go through in their life. And this is regardless whether you're in product management or in any sector, regardless. If you truly want to achieve your potential, achieve your goals and propel your career, mentorship is very important. So just two instances in my life only. The fact that I transitioned as a non-technical person into a technical product management kind of role was actually one advice that was given by my mentor. So, of course, they are the ones who have been there, who have way more experience than you have, right? You can absolutely go and read out there. You have GPT, you have Gemini, you have so many resources available. But people who have actually walked that path, have had those experiences. That's very important. But at the same time, in mentorship, it's very important to even acknowledge that it's a give and take kind of role. It should not be that and when I say give and take, it's not very transactional, right? There are synergies involved. You end up learning from each other. You end up learning from your journey. So that's a lifelong relationship that you have to nurture. Second, very big transition that happened in my career was transitioning from a very big organization, like Mansa just spoke about. Like in bigger organization at American Express, you have so many departments. You want to do data research, a data team is there. Be you may not be given that accountability, so to say. You can always do it, but you may not be given that accountability, right? You will have a team for market research, you will have a team for stabilization, everything else. I actually have been very a lifelong learner, and curiosity is something that drives me. So I used to always reach out to people, hey, what do you do in marketing? Hey, how does this happen? So one of my mentors, they recommended, why don't you try a startup? Why don't you move to a smaller setup? And I can get that from your vibe and from your energy that you will love it. And that was again one of the best decisions that happened to me. In the past 2 years, my learning has been 10x. I think I know so much about so many departments. Like today, I think I have that much of confidence that I can go out and start something of my own. So these are the things that this is the power of having the right mentor. So I think for me, that has been truly important.
That's really very good. In fact, I was just hearing one of the entrepreneurs saying that you get 10 years of work ex in just 2 years of working in a startup. So I think that's really very good. Now I have one question for both of you people. Like just right now, Shivani mentioned about lifelong learning. To be very honest, majority of the people struggle with continuously learning and growing. So I want insights from both of you. If you could tell us like how students can be continuous and lifelong
Learn. I think when you're especially in product management, given that the disruption is happening, technology is changing and evolving at a pace that we can't even imagine right now. Every 2 months, things change, right? So lifelong learning has become even more important if you're a product manager, because you're sitting at the center of business and of tech that's changing. So there are a couple of things. Firstly, I personally believe in power of compounding. So even in my bulletin board that I have in front of me, I have written 1% better every day, which is the wallpaper of my phone as well. So what I do is you have to practice deliberate learning. That is very important if you are a product manager, which is all about habits. So small changes that I did personally, like if I'm traveling to and fro work, I have switched to lesser music and more podcasts. So these are one thing. So of course, there is formal learning out there where you can do courses. Like Pansa spoke about, she pursued amazing course in product management. So that's one way to go about it. Second, of course, is informal learning, where you do networking, you reach out to your mentors, you meet people from the industry, you reach out to people from LinkedIn. Lastly, and very importantly, is experiential learning. If you're in your organization, don't limit yourself to your current role only. Reach out to your leaders, reach out to your peers, and to other leaders from the organization and say, hey, you have this problem, I would love to solve that. Can I help you? That experiential learning, and that when you get to volunteer, not only you get to build a personal brand, but also you get to learn a lot that you may not be able to if you're limiting yourself to your room. So that would be my idea. And yes, habits do matter to, so practice that every day. So that
Wow, this was really good. I am going to be taking notes of all this and keeping it and using it. But what about you, Manasa? What are your thoughts on this?
I'll take a step back with respect to lifelong learning, right? I guess it's about what gives you fun. Now, are you a person who loves learning and then gets excited because you learn something new? So ask that question to yourself first before even you think of, hey, I want to learn something. Like, the reason you want to learn something is it gives you something, right? Like, don't expect a tangible impact to happen immediately. The moment you expect that, hey, today I have learned this, or today I've solved this problem, or today I've done this certification, I will want this to translate into something, it might not happen. Then are you enjoying the process, or do you do something because you want a result? So it's about understanding yourself a little bit in terms of, hey, do I want to be a lifelong learner? If yes, what do I expect out of it? Is it the process or is it the outcome? So first, I think you might have to want to get that clarity a bit. But for me, I love learning. I mean, if I learn something new that particular day, I get really excited, and that makes me real, that's like a dopamine hit for me. It can be reading any article, it can be learning how to manage a conflict, it can be anything that's new. If I learn that day, that's like a, that makes me happy. That's why I learn, irrespective of whether it translates to something or not. So that's my take on lifelong or learning per se. Now I'll tell you what I do to ensure that I learn things, right? Like, first, articles. Like, I love reading articles. It can be tech related articles, it can be like Harvard Business Review articles on how you l- improve as a human, or your mental well-being or physical well-being, anything for that matter. So there are two ways. One is articles both on your work related and at the personal level. Now the second thing is I do a lot of certifications. Now I think, like Shivani, I also have a thing for psychology, because I feel as a product manager it's very important that you understand the psychology of the user to actually develop something for the user to meet their needs and wants, right? So, and I actually feel that humans won't change. That's why the more you tap into the psychology of the user, the more it is for you to develop products for them to meet their needs and wants. So I think I ensure that I do a lot of certifications, be it with respect to psychology related or UX related or AI related or analytics related. I keep myself up to date in terms of certification. And third, and the most important thing that I do is, it's not only about the skills or the certifications, right? It's about how you manage certain things which are not in your day to day work. It can be it influencing without authority, or it can be your communication skills, or it can be talking to your mentors, like people at Google. Like, you can reach out to anybody and then talk about a situation that you are in, and then understand strategies on how to deal with that situation. So things like this. So I spend a lot of time in having those personal connects at Google, so that I understand how to deal with certain things. As you grow up in your career or in your ladder, you need to understand how to navigate ambiguity, you need to understand how to collaborate better, how to get things done without having authority. So things like this. So the three important points. And but I think plus one to what Shivani was talking about, experiential learning, right? I do a lot of such things at Google. I take 20% projects. I keep talking to people and then saying, hey, I want to like try product management in this particular domain. Well, is it for me or is it not for me? Depends on how much I enjoy it, right? So I try and experiment by taking multiple projects with different teams to see if it's really for me. So I guess all the product management aspirants, this is something, if you have scope at your firm, I think this is something you should really do. Like, go try out if that is really for you.
That's really
So
very good.
I
In
guess
fact, I've also recently started reading a lot about psychology, and I started from the very basics, like Sigmund Freud and psychological disorders. Even I'm really
yeah,
interested in that. And I'm glad both
yeah,
of you pointed out on the importance and power of networking. How reaching out to people. I think that also
yeah,
shapes into a lot of curiosity. Manas, I just have one small question again out of personal curiosity. You have varied interests like from
yeah.
Karim to Bharatnatyam to Mandala art. Do you think that all of these things also really define your approach to innovation?
Good question. I guess consciously I don't do anything, but I guess subconsciously it changed. I have evolved as a person because I'm into multiple activities, right? Like, for example, let's say take carom. Like, I used to participate in corporate carom tournament, and I used to win sometimes and I used to lose sometimes. Now what happens is, as a sportsman or as a sportswoman, you tend to learn how to deal with setbacks. You turn to learn how to navigate challenges. You're always forward looking. Something doesn't work, it's okay. What do I learn from this and then move on? Is something that I have built over time, right? So it won't surprise you because you're not always on a smooth path. You'll always have setbacks. So that is something I've learned from, at least from my stint with Karam. Like, with respect to Bharatanatyam or piano, etc., right? It helps me to detach. It helps me to detach from my regular work. So that gives me a lot of creative space to actually think about problems when I get back to my actual work, right? So that's second. And then thirdly, and most importantly, what I do is I think about every small thing. For example, I do a lot of traveling also. When I travel, I gather experiences and I see, hey, how is this country solving this problem? And then whenever I come across a situation, I was like, hey, how can we make this better? So for me, product management is a way of life. That's how I think about every problem in life. Hey, can we automate this? Why is this so manual? Like, what can we do better? Why do you think we are not able to do this? So I keep thinking about a lot of things. So no matter what I am doing, that thought in the head on how can I make this better, always there. It can be anything for that matter. So I guess these experiences really help me to cross pollinate my experiences across, right? So subconsciously I'll develop an intuition towards certain problem solving, be it from a creative angle, be it from a sportsman angle, like multiple things. So yeah, I
That's
guess if
so
I have
true.
to
And
summarize, it's about yeah, dealing with setbacks, being able to detach, and then like making product management a way of life, I think has been, yeah,
amazing, Manasa. I think I'm loving the articulation that you have with every question that I'm asking you. In fact, I do
yeah,
plus one to traveling as well. Recently, I was just in Singapore and I literally was amazed by the public transport that they have. Like it's so
yeah,
smooth. And I was just thinking, why can't we have something like that in India? That just was bothering me
yeah,
for so long. How can we have the MRTs and the public transport in that way? Shivani, we were just talking about experiential learning, right? But I also want to ask you, like, how do you think a formal education in product management might just accelerate the career growth? Like, what's your view on the formal education?
That's actually a very good question. Yes, it's absolutely very important because product management is like once also mentioned, it's about everything. You need to be the jack of all trades, right? Like like CEO of the product and everything. It is a tough role. While it may be an individual contributor, but essentially it is a leadership role. You have to manage so many stakeholders. You have to manage so many important business decisions. You are the ownership of so much of data. There is so much of analysis involved, and at every level. Even if you're a product analyst, the decisions that they take, you're actually a creator, right? Regardless of the organization that you're in, whether it's a big organization, big tech organization, or even a small smart startup, you're actually building something from zero to one. And for that to be able to effectively build that, it's very important that you understand the criticality of each and every phase. So if one must read a lot. Even when I transitioned into my career, I did 1 month of so many trainings. Like I did Agile. Agile was coming in, Waterfall was going away. Speaking, and back then the resources were not available, but I so wish there were, because it was such a big struggle for me to identify who are the product managers. LinkedIn was not so common, right? Like people were there, but finding the resources, getting the right sort of training, all this thing has become so much easier. So I definitely encourage everyone who wants to pursue product management to first get their basics right, because it's actually about first principle thinking. And for that, you definitely need a good structure of the program that you can do and pursue. And the clarity that Mansa has, you can absolutely see from all her conversations, right? Because she has pursued one course. So that's the power of going through the entire program journey.
That's really very good, and I'm pretty sure all those who are listening to us are going to be taking important notes of this. Manasa, now believe it or not, I think that even product management is ever evolving. I think what it is now might not be what it is in the next decade to come. So, how
Yeah.
do you spot like the biggest challenges and opportunities in this particular field?
Good question. So, firstly, like here is the thing, right? Like product management is evolving, but there are certain things that are timeless. So first, I think I will build on to what Shivani was telling with respect to get your basics right. I think no matter how much product management is evolving, there are certain foundations that you need to get right, which essentially is having user empathy. That doesn't change. Understanding and then getting closer to user needs and wants doesn't change. And then secondly, data driven decision making, right? Like I think comes into the opportunity aspect of it, where you still, even at this point, right, leave about the next decade or leave about how it's evolving. Now even now you have a lot of data based on which you can make decisions. Now it is only going to go bigger, right? Like going forward you will have lot more data, a lot more generative data into picture, where which will help you or simplify decision making process for you. So that's the second part, right? And then I guess with respect to opportunities, so much of technologies, so much of automation, and so many integrations, I guess all these things are going to simplify your process of product management for sure. Now on the other hand, the not so, I mean, I would say an interesting side of it is how do you bring all this together? How can you bring in harmony with so much of information and technology changes and advancements out there, right? Like, firstly, I think the biggest challenge as a product manager is, see, you have to solve problems, you have to understand users, you have to bring all everything together. On the top of it, you have to bring up to speed, like you have to bring yourself up to speed. Like how can you like balance it out? That's point number one. And point number two is the scope changes, right? Like the scope of, now you have product managers, now you have specific streams of product management. Even now you have product manager who are focused on analytical side of things, product manager on design side, product managers on growth side, product manager on retention and engagement side. Now you have streams already. With AI coming into the picture, will it be a new dimension or will it spam across the breadth? Like how do you be an SME, like subject matter expert in your stream, or will you develop a breadth of things? So that is, I think, so many decisions to make and so many questions to answer, right? Now I think to summarize, first there are certain timeless things where you got to get your basic right, develop your user empathy, have a clear understanding of user needs and wants, understand how can you complement with this the data that you have to make your decisions. That is a timeless thing. Now the other side of the story is, the more this role is evolving, how can you develop a sense of what excites you the most in this stream, and how can you complement this with the technology that is coming into picture, and how will you ensure that you stay relevant in the entire scheme of things, is something that I think is a challenge that you got all of us should deal with, not product managers or every role that for that matter, because everything is evolving. Because I have seen a phase of product manager where when you move from one company to other company only, you don't know what you'll do as a product manager. Now
Correct.
I guess the lines are pretty clear, and it's not as blurred as it was earlier. Now with the lines being pretty clear, it's also evolving to an extent where product manager management also have streams now. So you got to balance it out and then bring everything together, bring in harmony into this system. So I guess, yeah, it's an interesting space to be in, but one thing I'm sure is your intent to make an impact and solve problems for users and make life better for users is the vision. I guess how you get there is, I think, up to us.
Exactly. And like I said, I think it's completely like magician at work. And I
Yeah.
think one of the most important things you've talked about is like understanding the consumer's needs. That's very
Yeah.
important. A lot of times people just
Yeah.
make decisions in their own fancy offices, but don't know exactly what's happening on the ground. Moving from that, I'm going to be asking some personal questions. And first one is to you, Shivani, if you're comfortable in sharing. At Harappa, how do you measure a success of a particular product or a new feature that you've launched?
Sure. Absolutely. That's very important. So, um, where at Harappa, the product management has been so interesting. It has been so exciting for me because, of course, there is one product management vertical, but I am reporting indirectly to the CEO of the company. So I also have to keep in mind the P&L, the business outcomes, and everything. So every decision that we take really needs to have a very strong why. So at Harappa, and generally the practice that I follow in product management is what, why, how. Like you have to be very clear what you're doing at a very granular, like the smallest nugget, you have to define what exactly you're building. So you have to do the market research, you have to get the data ready, you have to define the problem statement very clearly, because at the end of the day, we all are solving problems, right? So doing that first principles thinking. Most important is why I'm doing this. Now, this why is where probably why is the answer to your question. If I am building this building, what I'm building this building. Why I'm building this building. So you need to do those 5 whys with a group of people. Get that right. And then what I always do, and then of course there is how, whether there is technical feasibility, how will we go about it, what are the timelines, what's the collaboration, whether there is market and everything, whether how can we get the PMF right, plan B, A/B testing and all of that. But that why needs to clearly have pre and post. Now, one thing that my team knows that I believe in strongly, of course, in addition to why, is your work doesn't stop once you launch a feature or once you launch a product, right? That's the biggest that's that's one most important point that you need to keep in mind. The stabilization phase or the post launch phase, that's very important. The why that you were thinking, that if I do this my engagement increase, if I'm working in a social media company, I'm building a feature assuming that my engagement will shoot up by 30 minutes per day. You actually have to measure that did it increase? If it did not, where did you go wrong? Do I need to do another round of A/B testing? Do I need to do that tweaking? So that measuring the pre and post is most important. So what, why, how, why is very important, and your work never stops once you launch a product. In fact, I think it starts because you come up with enhancements. You come up with follow-up projects. Oh, this did not work. Now this will work. This was the incorrect data point. Now this can work. So it's all about that. So I think that's very important.
Definitely. I think it's always like a work in progress and you're
Yes.
constantly improving the product. Now, Manasa, because Shivani is giving me insights from Harappa, I want to get some insights from Google. You told me that, at Google, there's everybody, there are people, for each and every role and thing. But how do you identify various challenges for Google or even for Google's clients? Like, how do you do that?
It really depends, right? It depends on the type of product that we are working for. Now, like I was telling you, I'll give you like a couple of personal examples, right? Like I was working with Files by Google, which was developed for users in India or next billion users, as per Google. Now, when we were developing that, we relied heavily on user research, right? We relied heavily on user research in terms of, we used to do personal interviews, we used to uh, review user feedback time and again to ensure that whatever we are developing is actually serving users purpose or not. So I think that's the biggest thing for that we have done for Files by Google. For example, like a lot of users in India, right, like who use mobiles with less data, like less data or less storage. Now Files by Google caters to such users. Now when we talk about that users, the context of that usage matters, right? Like why do there was one interesting insight that we got during our research is they share their mobile with their family. Now that led to an innovative idea of, hey, let us create a safe folder where they can actually lock the data that they don't want other family members to see. Now with Files by Google, it's heavily on user research, which drives innovation for us, or which helps us build products. Now I work for Google Pay for Business. Now, Google Pay for Business is a product used by merchants. Now, this landscape is completely different. It's not just what users need, it's also about what RBI wants, it's also what NPCI wants, it's also about how all the players in the payment ecosystem wants, right? And there are a lot of limitations. There will be risk, compliance, regulations, like the multiple things that comes into picture, which kinds of gives us a new scope to build solutions which are very sustainable, compliant, etc. But it also doesn't give us enough freedom to build solutions for the users. So that's a very interesting space. So it really depends, varies from product to product, on how we go about building products for user needs. So just two examples. So I'm sure if I take ad space, the things will be very different, right? Like if I, like, it really depends. But yeah, it's a very interesting space, because the more we quickly adapt and understand the ecosystem, the more we will be able to bring that into picture while we are developing features or developing a roadmap. So
Wow. I mean, the moment you said Google Pay for Business, my ears were up because I can understand how interesting yet very challenging it would be, because it's payments and then
that,
compliance and then obviously
yeah.
building an amazing product for the consumer. Thank you so much, like, for sharing all these insights.
Generally, when I say Google Pay, I ensure that I say Google Pay for Business, because my friends keep telling, hey, it's Google Pay, no, can you get me a scratch card? So
Or,
things like
or a
that keep coming.
cashback,
I'm
or
like,
a cashback.
yeah, cashback, yeah. I'm like, hey, hold on, I work for business, not Google Pay for consumers. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being very, very candid. Now I'm going to move to a very interesting segment of this webinar, which is the rapid fire. Where I'm going to ask you 10 questions and I'm expecting rapid answers. Who wants to go first? Shivani or Manasa?
I can
Hand
go
raised.
first. Yeah.
Great then. Here's your rapid fire. Let's get started. The first question is one word to describe innovation at Google.
Sustainable.
Most impactful book you've read.
The multiple, but I would say Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson.
Product
There's a lot
management
of products and
trend. Okay. Third
yeah.
question, product management trend you are most excited about.
Specialization, the streams like growth, um, analytics, and design. Yeah.
Wow, good answer. Next question, one common misconception about product management.
Hmm.
Got you thinking.
That you are the CEO of the product.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Next one, key skill every PM should have.
Empathy.
Your source for new ideas.
Articles, people,
Okay. Next one.
problems,
Next one. One trend shaping product management.
artificial intelligence, generative AI, automation, integration, lot of things.
Okay. That's more than one trend. Next one.
Yeah.
Critical skill gap in product management candidates today.
I am not sure if I can give a generic statement to this, but I feel I don't talk it as a gap, but I think developing a design acumen can help.
I think very important. Next one.
Yeah.
Product feedback, quality or quantity.
Both.
Okay. Last question. Advice for aspiring product managers.
Understand the role better.
Wow, this was really very good. Shivani, are you ready for your rapid fire?
Yes.
Let's get started then. Your first question, favorite productivity tool?
Recently, I've been using Notion a lot.
Okay.
Hmm.
Next one, most challenging aspect of product growth?
Balancing between business and technical feasibility, like engineering and tech.
Okay. Next question, preferred method for user feedback?
I prefer both quantitative and qualitative, but I use MOM and placing all the surveys at the right point. So I spend a lot of time in placing everything in the right space. That's the point. That's very important. Like the logics.
Great. One trend shaping edtech?
Personalized learning because of AI.
Yes. Key skill every product manager should have?
First principles thinking.
Yes. Essential trait for a team leader?
Empathy.
Okay. Your go-to for creative inspiration?
Um, Entrepreneurial podcast. Like I listen to a lot of people who have had similar journeys that I get inspired by. So yeah,
And if you want to name a few of those podcasts?
so many of them, like Indian my one of the favorite podcasts is that I never miss is First Principles Thinking by Ken.
Okay, that's good one. I haven't watched it. I'll go do that.
It has all
Biggest
the founders from all the companies and how they have actually set up those companies, and they deep dive into their entire journey. So it's an amazing must watch.
great. Biggest myth about product management.
Uh, because it never stops with ideation. You have to work on execution as well.
Yes, very important. One thing you wish you knew earlier in your career.
The power of networking.
Okay.
Hmm.
Last question. Advice for aspiring product managers.
Keep learning. Like, this session is all about learning. Like, of course, this is one space that's growing so much. Like, I was reading earlier this year, there are already 1 million jobs out there on LinkedIn, and it's supposed to grow by, there was a study that LinkedIn ran also. They are supposed to grow by 30 to 40%. But at the same time, we need to acknowledge that there is big good transformation, disruption happening in the industry. So the need for continuous learning, upskilling yourself, and of course, like Mansa rightly pointed out, staying relevant regardless of the space that you're in. That's very important. So that would be my advice.
That's really very good, guys. Great job here, slapping from my side. I think answers were really very amazing. We will now move on to another very exciting section of this webinar, which is the Q&A. So here's, I want the chat to be buzzing with the questions that you have. We have so many people who are attending this webinar live right now. So guys, please feel free to ask us question in the chat. Till that time, both for Manasa and Shivani, we basically also ran a survey and asked questions who'd registered. So I'll take up a couple of questions till the chat gets heated up and they start asking us questions. So one of the questions that we have from Mridu Kotach is, what is the scope of product management in an AI dominated world? Anybody can answer that, either of you.
I can take a first shot.
Take it. Please go
Sure.
ahead.
First, I think I personally feel at this point of time, we are hyping it up a little bit. Firstly, like I was telling you, at this product management is about developing products to solve user needs. So I think no matter how much AI comes into picture, like I said, there are some basic and foundation things that we have to do, which is understand user better, and then AI will always be an add-on to the problem that you want to solve, which will make your solutioning very easier or solutioning better to for user to meet his or her needs, right? So I think the scope of product management will only multiply with AI coming into picture, because now you have lot more scope to make a difference. So it will never reduce the scope, it will only increase the scope because of the plethora of solutions that comes into picture for you to solve a specific problem.
Wow, I
But
think
understanding the problem is the key here. Understand the problem and then see how AI can help you solve the problem.
I think this provides as a big breather for everybody, because everyone's so scared about, like, will AI take away their jobs or not? So I think coming from you, I think Manasa, it means a lot. One of the people, Shubham Tyagi, in the chat is asking us this question, which is, suggest important courses for product management. And I think Shivani, you can take this up.
One course we are speaking about right now. So that's one for sure. But of course, you should continue to go through all the certifications. So it depends on whether if you're a workplace professional and you have limited time, right? It totally depends on the bandwidth that you have and the skills that you're looking for. If you do not have, if you have no understanding of, like, if you want to understand the basics, there will be one course for you. You could also pursue ISP's course. That's amazing. So many of my friends have gone through that course and they have actually experienced a growth in their journey. So that's one. And Mansa can also talk about it. Um, so it depends on the time that you have and the skills that you're looking for. However, if you already are a product manager, then my recommendation would be to get into specialization, like specific skill set. If you want to transition to, say, a growth product manager role, then you might want to understand how marketing works, how SEO works, the basics of that. So it totally depends on the space that you're in and the career that you want to pursue, and whether you come from a business background or a technical background.
Okay, another very important question is coming from Isha Kocher in the chat. She's asking, can someone from a non-tech background go into product management? And this is a
Absolutely.
big question mark. I think Isha is asking on the behalf of everybody, because this is this very big question mark that they have, that, hey, can non-tech people actually do product management or not?
Yeah, I am a non-tech person. So I have done my I am an economics student. I was all about finance and numbers, which is why I was in banking and all the in financial industry. But I transitioned into a product manager role, and even I was very surprised initially. Even I thought that only engineers make it to the product management, but it's genuinely about the basics, first principles thinking, solving customer problems. But you also need to acknowledge that your peers do come from technical background, so you can't discount that. You may have to you and you need to know the skill that you bring on the table, right? So I have very good understanding of business. I understand what the importance of scale, how to achieve scale, how to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 10 from business standpoint. So, and collaboration, project management, all of those things. But you need to actually also understand the basics of tech, like integration, how it works. And completely it's on the job training. Like, I have been into so many technical projects. I have worked on automation. I've looked at Blue Prism scripts. I have looked at NLP coding also, while it used to scare me and intimidate me in the beginning, but now I'm very comfortable with all of that. So no, I don't think so that's important.
Great. I think that's amazing perspective, Shivani. Now I'm going to go to someone who actually comes from a tech background. So, Manasa, if you could answer that.
I guess I always tell this. See, there is definitely an advantage of having tech background, especially because you can understand if engineering comes and tells you that this will take this much time, or this is the scope of this project, or these are the limitations of the project. You can have your point of view, and then you can understand their language better. You have, because you have come from a tech background. That's definitely there. But I always keep telling this, which is, there is definitely an advantage coming from tech background, but there is no disadvantage of not having a tech background. So it's all about how you solve a problem, how you approach a problem. As long as you have people who can provide that expertise from the technical standpoint, and then you have enough knowledge to understand, or even if you can trust the teams with respect to what they come up with, I think you're good. There is no disadvantage of not having a tech background, but there is definitely, like, you have an edge with respect to understanding the tech side of things when somebody comes and tells you that. But definitely, like, that doesn't stop you from being a product manager. Nobody will reject you because you're not from a tech background, because product management has evolved. Like you have asked the question in the beginning also, right? Initially, like Shivani was telling, initially all of us will, I mean, at ISB also, when I was pursuing my PGP, I was like, hey, I have tech background, so I stand a great chance in conversion, sure. But there are certain s- type of companies which prefers people from tech background and certain teams. But there are other companies which do not have a technical which doesn't need a technical product manager at all. So you can always target companies like that, you can always target products like that. So now product management has evolved so much. So not having a tech background, it's okay not to have a tech background. As far as you develop a skill of problem solving, I think you're good.
Great question. Again, a breather for everybody who's listening, because it was a big question mark. Guys, Shiva Kumar has a question, which is sometimes if we go with the solution for any issue, but we see there is no satisfactory response from the client. In this situation, as a user slash vendor, how can we face that issue? How is it needed to be explained them clearly to avoid escalations? How can we do it better?
Interesting question. Shiva, I think this is a way to look at it. Firstly, a lot of times, understand that everyone is right from their side. Everyone has a point to make, everyone has a perspective. Now, the more you take a step back, and instead of thinking who is right or who is wrong, hey, I have done my best, and then why is client not satisfied, etc. This is where, instead of going into the solution direct, I don't know the approach because I don't know the problem, I am just giving a generic solution. Shivani, please feel free to add. The approach you generally take is ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions in terms of to even understand the issue even before jumping into the solution. That's the beauty of even product manager, or generally also, right? Like, don't go with assumptions. A lot of times it so happens that we are on a different page and the client might be on a different page. So ask a lot of questions and then get to consensus with respect to what exactly is the problem that you are trying to solve for, and then enter into solutioning. And then keep verifying with the client in terms of, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is the problem, can you please. I think the more you communicate, the
Yeah,
more there won't be,
yeah.
yeah, the more you communicate clarity. develop clarity with respect to solving a problem. Hey, this is my understanding about what you're asking for. Am I right or am I missing something? Then you move into, hey, these are the questions that you're, this is the clarification you're looking for. Is that right? And then you come up with solution and then ask what's missing. So always, especially when it comes to clients, right, it's always important that you bring them onto the same page that you are in, instead of at the end getting, like, you can be a shocker that, hey, you know what, this is not what I'm looking for. So don't enter into situations like that. Probably ask more clarifying questions in the beginning, so that we don't end up with surprises. So that will be my suggestion. Shivani, yeah, feel free to add more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very nicely covered. Understanding, see, when you are working as a contractor or as a vendor for clients, one thing that you also need to keep in mind is you will, or they will always, there will be some comparison because there are other competitive players available, and you need to be aware of what others are offering, right? So you need to really understand what they're looking for, whether you're able to solve for it. So you know your product, you know whether you have what your competitors have, and you know what you don't have. So whatever you don't have, you need to have that use case ready. So even I have a SaaS product internally, and I know that there are you can't have all the features of the world, right? But the features that I have, how powerful they are, the solution that I have provided, how can they help benefit them? Like Mansa always they are always, the clients and even the customer is always right. Customer for a
Yeah,
reason, king or queen, right? Because they
yeah.
are right. We are solving a problem for them. So either we provide a solution to them, or if not, then we should be able to find actually points how our solution can benefit them. So just making them realize that whatever we have created can actually benefit them. But for that, you need to do your homework first and understand what exactly the problem is.
Yeah,
One
I think
probably a long-term solution. Oh, sorry, just
no,
one point,
no,
Kavach. So one thing that you can think of, Shiva, is because I don't know what exactly the issue you're talking about. It works to have a framework or templatize certain questions. So the more you have a template, you can use the template as a basic uh, ground to start on, and then you can build on it depending on the severity and the nature of the issue. The more you have a template, right, with respect to, hey, can you tell me the impact of this particular thing, or what exactly are you looking for, like by when, like what, things like that. If you have a template of all the questions, you can start off with that. And then you can also train clients in such a way that, hey, before they seek an explanation or a solution for an issue, this is what they're looking for, this is what they're coming from. So you can ask follow-up questions always. So having templates for a basic set of questions to start off always works and also saves time. I mean, this is just a suggestion. Yeah, can't
no,
comment
I
much without knowing the issue.
but
Yeah.
very good suggestions you've given, and I think a great answer. Guys, we were also getting a lot of doubts regarding the HSB's MBA, so I'm going to be answering that for all you people who are listening to us. So, guys, HSB's MBA program curriculum is meticulously designed to fulfill increasing global needs for skilled product managers. You're basically going to have three different parallel tracks. One is general management, the other is product management, and third is leadership. Right from the start, you all will be immersed in projects that cut across technology, design, and business. This program is basically hands-on approach enriched by HSB's vibrant campus environment where disciplinary collaboration is the norm, promoting an atmosphere where ideas can flourish and intersect freely. They have more than 30 corporate partners and startups. So HSB also offers unparalleled access to internships, live projects, and mentorship opportunities. These partners not only enhance learnings, but also ensure that you are integrated into an industry network, enhancing your employability and career prospects. Guys, in case you have any more doubts, please feel free to check out HSB's website or reach out to the team because I'm pretty sure they will be able to provide you a lot of valuable insights. Great. And I think Sanat has already put out the link in the chat box, so please feel free to reach out to that. Guys, this brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you so much, Manasa and Shivani, for being so candid and taking out time from your busy schedules. Hands down, I think it was a power packed session with so much of learning and fun. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much
much
for having
for
us.
having us. Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Great.
Yeah.
I see you
Good
guys.
evening well spent for us.
Amazing, amazing. Pleasure is all mine, and thank you so much. Like I said, for taking out time from your busy schedules to being this. I'm pretty sure each one of them who's listening to us today have taken up a lot of valuable insights. Whether it's about first principle thinking, or having curiosity, or building up networks. I think all of them are even very very important advices that you guys have given. So thank you so much once again. I'll see you all later. We all can log off now. Take care, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.